everyone, and thank you for joining me today for Sketchbook Sunday, episode 23. So before I get into the topic I want to talk about today, I'm working in my sketchbook with charcoal. The sketchbook is a moleskin sketchbook, and at some point you're going to see me using a brush to create smudges, and I also chipped away at the charcoal to get charcoal powder. Well, it's hard to speak sometimes. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about drawing realism and what is it that makes an image look real. This is also just my understanding, mind you, but I think a lot of artists would agree. And also this video is mostly intended for beginner artists and anyone who seems to be struggling with creating something realistic. So in my sketchbook, I started off with a very light pencil sketch in graphite of the basic shapes. I always start off with a very, very, very light sketch. I don't want to have heavy outlines because I'm going to get into that in a second. Then I proceeded to draw with charcoal, and for the most part, I used a brush to smudge and create shadows. Now, having proportions down is obviously super important when it comes to drawing realism and painting realism, but that's not the only thing that's going to help an image look believable or real. So when I see a lot of early beginner drawing attempts at realism, and I'm including my own very, very early childhood art, those are usually made up with a lot of outlines, lines that basically draw on the shape, I guess. I don't know how to describe that, but basically, you know how cartoons are very outlined? A lot of people sometimes have trouble separating the subject as a whole from what it actually is and just dismantling it into tiny little shapes and shadows. But drawing something to look real means you're replicating the light and shadows that you see in the world. And in the real world, there are no outlines. The only reason you're seeing shapes is because it's all light and shadow. The shapes you see are created by light and shadow. And sometimes I like to think of it, and it even kind of feels like it, when I'm painting or drawing, it's almost like I'm sculpting. Like the image is already there, it's just hidden, and I'm simply revealing it, which reminds me of an awesome Michelangelo quote. I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. I love it. For me, thinking of it already being there and me sort of uncovering it, it takes away some of the fear of having to create something from scratch. It feels a little bit less intimidating. So if you're struggling with understanding light and shadows and being able to portray that accurately in your work to make your subjects appear real, please don't feel bad. And I know everyone hates hearing it, but it very much is a matter of practice. But you do have to be committed to practicing every single day. You just can't practice once in a while, once a month, Like if you really want to improve your skills, you need to work from life, you need to use photo references, you need to expand your horizons. But having references will actually help you so much because you can see the subjects and you can study them. And contrary to a lot of ignorant opinions, there is absolutely nothing wrong with using reference material for your art. It's how they teach you to draw and paint realism in art school. It's what the old masters did. Everybody used references, and every artist who draws really realistic images uses references. So as you look at anything in the world, try to break away from how we usually think about things. We see things as a whole. When you look in the mirror, you see your eyes, your nose, your lips, ears, whatever. You see your entire face. But try to forget for a moment that it's even a face. Look closely at where the shadows fall. Notice that your nose, for example, is not outlined whatsoever like a cartoon. It only appears to look like a nose because of its shape, and the only reason you're able to even see the shape is because of the light that falls on it and the shadows it casts. So instead of seeing lips, try to see the tiny little shapes within the lips. Look closely. Look at the individual little shadows on the lips, or even parts that appear brighter. Cartoons, for example, take our world and simplify it to the most basic shapes and sometimes even very, very, very primitive shadows. everything has some sort of prominent outline. We can recognize what the things are in the cartoon. Our brains know what the shapes are, but they're not real. They don't look real. It's far too simplified. We just know that it's more of a symbol of reality rather than actually portraying reality. So with creating realism, you are doing the opposite of that. You are looking at all of the intricacies of something instead of trying to simplify it as a whole. So as a kind of mind exercise you can practice without having to draw anything, anytime you go anywhere, or actually you can even do it right now, like in your own house. Pretend you are seeing everything for the first time. Pretend you don't know what those things are and really focus on the shapes of things. And I'm not talking the shape of the whole, the shape of the outline. I'm not saying the shape of a tree or the shape of a car. Look deeper than that. Forget it's a car. Forget it's a tree. Look for where you see shadow and light. Look at the shapes of the shadows all over the subject, the shapes of the highlights. Stop thinking about what the actual subject is and look at all the things that make the puzzle come together. In order to make something look realistic, you have to understand that shadow and light have many tones in them. It's not just one dark area that's one solid tone or one light area with one solid tone. There are varying degrees of darkness and lightness to different parts of the shadows and light. And these are the things that you need to pay attention to and train your eyes to see. And it does become easier over time. So, in my sketchbook, those aren't really eyes. They're just a bunch of charcoal smudged on a paper. It just looks like eyes because I have replicated the shapes that our minds recognize to be eyes. And those individual little shapes and shadows come together to make the image as a whole, and you see a realistic eye. So I hope I'm making sense here. You should try and practice as much as you possibly can. I can't stress this enough. That's really the only way you are going to improve. Videos and tutorials might give you guidance, but to create your own original art that is not based off of the work of anyone else's, and to have it look real and to feel comfortable in your process, you are going to have to put in hundreds of hours, if not thousands. Just practice endlessly forever. Always treat it as a learning process and don't be hard on yourself. Don't feel bad. Understand where you need to improve and look at it realistically. Just don't beat yourself up or insult yourself about it. Develop a kind of emotional maturity when it comes to judging your own work. And it doesn't have to be this daunting, intimidating process every time. Just take it easy and try to have fun with it, because if it's not fun and you're not enjoying making art, why are you even doing it, Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this Sketchbook Sunday. I really want to elaborate more on this subject on a deeper level with painting, and if you guys are interested in that, please let me know. On my Patreon page, I have uploaded a real 2-hour-long video of my process of my recent painting, The Sleepwalker, along with a step-by-step process collage, and there's also another behind-the-scenes half-hour bonus video that will be posted shortly as well. I post reference images for you guys on my Patreon page that you can use for your own work, royalty-free, and I want to give a huge thanks to my patrons who support me on there. You guys make my life so much easier, and you're really helping me invest in more equipment to make these videos way better. And I did get a new camera. Some of you noticed in my last video, but yes, I did get another camera, and there's a lot more other equipment upgrades I'm planning in the works as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know what painting or drawing tutorials you would like to see in the future, and I will do my absolute best to make them soon. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!